Well, Jay, one of the great things about doing certainly the podcast, but also doing these specials is that we get to really go deep on a lot of companies, a lot of people that you and I talk about on mic and off mic, one of which, Epidemic Sound, is a company that I am so interested in. And here we are talking about it. Epidemic Sound, of course, is the world's leading sound tracking platform, fueling more than 3 billion, yes, 3 billion with a B, daily views across YouTube and TikTok. And they've launched something called Extra Version, a new remix series that brings together celebrated stars and Epidemic Sound artists to reimagine existing tracks and expand their impact. So they've got a lot going on over there. And you got to sit down with the big cheese, the big man, the dude.
I got to sit down with their co-founder and CEO, Oscar Höglund, and I had met him at South by Southwest, and we spent a little bit of time together. And I really like him and his team. You know, they live in the attention economy and the creator economy. And, you know, they're working with artists like Johnny Marr and Jordan Sparks. And I asked him about, you know, being first in the space of this ambient, lo-fi, mood-based music. Some people call it functional music. But he's had tremendous success with Spotify, and we talk about that relationship. I also asked him about surprising trends in music consumption, and we talked about generative AI. But enough about me. And enough about our yapping. Here is my conversation with Epidemic Sound CEO and co-founder Oscar Höglund. Let it roll.
Stand by for transmission.
This is London calling.
Wake up! The revolution is at hand!
Your morning coffee is on the air. On the air. On the air. On the air. On the air.
Standing by.
Your morning coffee, the weekly music news for the new music business. It's the highly curated, agitated, advocated, moderated, and liberated digital music information that you need to know. We are your digital music authority. And now from our studios in Hollywood, California, here's your hosts, Jay Gilbert and Mike Etchart.
Oscar, thanks for joining me. It's so good to see you again.
Hey, Jay. It's so good to see you again and so good to be on the show.
Before we hit record, we talked about just how fast things are moving in this new music industry. But I want to kick it off with asking you, for people with no prior knowledge, tell them, what is Epidemic Sound and what's your path to co-founding the company? How has it evolved since you've launched in 2009?
So first off, thanks for asking that question. The way I like to characterize it is that Epidemic Sound is an overnight success that took 15 years to build. And maybe it's because we're Swedes, we're a bit dumber, we're socially awkward. Or maybe it's just because we try to be very thoughtful and meticulous in terms of what we're trying to achieve. So I think at the highest level of abstraction and borderline being poetic, we're basically trying to see if we can help soundtrack the internet. And so fundamentally, I believe that the internet is going to go down as our generation's most prolific collective achievement, in the sense that I think future generations are going to look back. When I'm a granddad, like my kids' kids are going to look at me and go, "Granddad, like you guys invented the internet. That's crazy cool. Like, what did the world look like before that? Like, how did you even consume culture or education or book of time at the dentist or shop things? Like, it's crazy it didn't exist." And as Swedes, like, we have a privileged position in the music industry, but bar that, like, we're a tiny country by the North Pole. We speak a ridiculous language. We have two superpowers, right? We're engineers and we do music very well. And so 16 years ago, we sat down and we took a long, hard think, and we said that, yeah, we think the internet's going to be this big deal. and would like to try and see if we can be the company that gets to soundtrack the internet. Because if we do, we can basically help unlock creativity like on a next level scale. We can bring our species' oldest trait, which I would argue is storytelling. Like we told each other stories around the fires to help build civilizations and understand the mysteries of the world. And that lived on through generations. And now as we usher into the next chapter of humanity, it's very much like internet centric. And we think that, or we took a bet many years ago that we said that we think the interface of the internet, like the way we interact, initially we said it's going to be text because that's simple, straightforward. But over time it's going to evolve and it's going to be picture centric. And sure enough, along came Instagram eventually. But we said that over time, video is a much more efficient way for our species to interact with each other. You say that a picture contains 1,000 words. Well, a video contains so much more because it's more information. But if you add audio, if you add music, you get emotion on top of information. And it's just a superior way to communicate. And we said that music was fairly poorly set up to make the transition, fractional rights, fractional ownerships, like a very difficult environment to really scale music and soundtracking. And so Epidemic was like rethinking the music industry. So at our core, we're a soundtracking platform. We provide sensational music that people can use in their content online. We've accumulated like a huge amount of customers and such. We have a massive footprint. We have tons of data. We now work with thousands of artists all around the world, and our core business is a subscription business. So hundreds of thousands of people around the world pay us a subscription fee to get access to our platform, our toolings, our API, our artists' incredible music. And then we apply software and AI and whatnot in order to help them tell amazing stories. Like basically, we think that video without audio is like food without flavor. And so we're trying to bring the umami.
Right. Let's dig into that core business. I find that really interesting. I recently read that Epidemic Sound, quote, lives in the attention economy and the creator economy. Is that accurate? And how do you help artists reach a global audience and create revenue outside of this traditional label ecosystem?
The way we like to unpack it and think about it is at the top of society, I would argue, we run the world like an attention economy. As in, if you amass a lot of attention, over time you're able to monetize that. And if you look at the biggest companies on the planet, they've understood this earlier than most. Whether these are the Alphabets of the world, the Facebooks of the world, the Microsofts of the world, like the list is long, the Amazons of the world. If you can attract a lot of attention, that's like very, very great starting point to build a successful business. And so within the attention economy, like content and storytelling at its core is all about attracting attention. And so we're in service of the attention economy. But we're more distinct than that because we've committed ourselves to helping the creator economy, which is like a subset of the attention economy. Many years ago when we started the business, I needed a very long elevator ride to try and explain to people what the creator economy was because it was esoteric. People didn't know, what do you mean gig? They couldn't really understand the huge impact of platforms such as the Alphabets of the world, the Metas of the world, the Snaps, the TikToks, the LinkedIns eventually, and so on. Nowadays, it's lost on no one that this is where most people go to accumulate information, knowledge, entertainment, and all of the above. And as that world has proliferated and kept on growing, like we took upon ourselves that we would like to be a company who lives in the service of the creator economy. We want to help connect two distinct groups within the creator economy. So artists on the one hand, who have incredible art, they have a voice, they have an emotion that they want to convey. And then on the other side of our marketplace, we have storytellers or customers as they're commonly known. And they have huge audiences, they have very compelling followings, and they're looking for audio and emotion to bring their stories to life. Again, to add the umami to the dish that is the story that they're telling. And so we facilitated that interaction. In the building of our business, we've come to like accumulate massive scale. And so just to give you some numbers, roughly 70% of our generation's most prolific storytellers use and subscribe to Epidemic Sound to help bring their content to life. That equates, our music is heard 3 billion times with a B every single day across the globe. put differently, that's 20 Super Bowls every single day with our music played globally. This is across YouTube, TikTok, Insta, Snap, like all of these platforms. So we reach a huge audience. Now that's important because when we set our business up, it was very much in the service of artists. So this is where we took like a first principle view, and we came to a very contrarian conclusion, which I think some people found like unusual at the time, because we took a step back and we said, how can we best be of service to artists? What is it that they ultimately need and want and have a tough time achieving? And we came up with two things. We think distribution is very important. You want to reach as many people as possible. And number two, we said monetization. Like you want to be able to sustain yourself on your talent and on your craft and on your hard work. And so we took those two key principles and we said, we think that the way to achieve this better than anyone else is if we allow ourselves to acquire 100% of all the rights of the tracks that we eventually commission from artists. That's distinctly different from the traditional model where you have a record label, a PRO, a publisher, a neighboring rights. Everyone is involved, everyone represents, nobody can call the final shots. They end up quibbling and sort of not really getting along, and it evolves slower. Our approach allowed us to do the following. We could then reach out to professional storytellers. We started with broadcasters, production companies and whatnot. And we said, hey, dissimilar from everyone else. If you use music from Epidemic, if you use our platform, if you work with the artists that we've chosen to work with, all of the rights are in one place. And as such, we can indemnify you and we can warrant that this music can be used in all of your content, on all platforms, in all jurisdictions, in all part of the world. And this is distinctly dissimilar from everyone else, where there are statutory damages, split ownership, fractional rights. So our first innovation was very much like a legal one. And that yielded more or less immediate product market fit. Like we were onto something because everyone wanted to tell a story. They could solve everything bar music. And we just paved the road to suddenly you could add incredible spice to your content. You could add music, you could add emotion. So that's very much kind of how it started, and it scaled. And so number two in that value proposition was, how can we make sure that artists are compensated? How can we make sure that they make money?
Yeah.
And this is where it gets really interesting and where it actually gets super relevant, because I have an example from less than 48 hours ago. So fundamentally, the way we compensate artists is we have 4 pillars that we think are incredibly important in order to get things right. Because we've always said that we never want to build Epidemic on the backs of artists. We want to put our money where our mouth is, and we want to help supercharge the creator economy in general and the music industry in particular. So the first thing we said is that we only commission tracks. So we have tens of thousands of artists who reach out to us on a quarterly basis who want to submit music to Epidemic. We're very picky, so we're selective. So we're a closed marketplace. And to help us choose what kind of music we should be picking, we actually use our scale. Because if you get 3 billion pieces of signal every single day, we know what the internet sounds like. We know what people are listening to on our services, on Spotify, on Deezer, on YouTube, like everywhere our music is found, we get that signal. So we know what people are liking, what they're playing, what the comments are, what they're skipping, what they're adding to playlists. And that paints a beautiful mosaic for us, which tells us that this is where demand is at, this is where supply is at. And if there's a delta, that's what we're going to commission. So the first thing is we use our proprietary data to tell us, today we're going to commission a funk or, let's say a funk song from Jay. So I reach out to you, Jay, and I say, hey, this is the track I want to commission. My data is telling me that they're searching for this track, they're skipping it, they're not finding it. This is the direction. And you go, that's amazing. I was in Rio the other day, I feel it, I have a good idea of direction. And so step one is we pay a commission. So we'll pay you anywhere between $2,000 and $8,000 up front to commission one track. Our A&Rs will work closely with you, help you get to the right kind of output, give you feedback, make sure that the output is amazing, both in your own eyes and also what we believe that our customers are really looking for in terms of the story they want to tell. We then take that track, we put it on Epidemic Sound, and immediately your track is marketed to millions of content creators. As I said, we have 70% of the world's most prolific. So you get marketing as a side effect of our business. They start using that track. The more they pick out and download your track, as opposed to all other tracks on Epidemic, that gives us a second signal that says that Jay's track is more relevant than everyone else's track. And so as such, we introduced the second pillar, which we call the soundtrack bonus. This now equates several $1 million of our turnover per year. It keeps on compounding as the business grows. And it's basically us saying that we would love for artists like Jay to really care about who's downloading their tracks and why. We want them to understand what tracks lend themselves really well to soundtracking. So if your tracks end up constituting 10% of all the tracks that were downloaded of Epidemic, you'll get 10% of the soundtrack bonus. So suddenly we introduced revenue stream number 2, which is soundtrack bonus. Then we introduced point number 3, and this was a few years ago. We started seeing an interesting thing as we hit scale. Like, the business was so big that the number one comment across YouTube when they were watching shows, watching content that featured Epidemic music was, wow, this music really speaks to me. This artist is incredible. But they couldn't find said artist on YouTube Music, Spotify, on the regular DSPs because we were busy trying to be a soundtracking company. Eventually, we took a step back and we said, hang on, what if we inadvertently have discovered the world's best marketing platform for new artists and new music? What if we take all of our music, we upload it to the traditional DSPs across the world, and we see if we can encourage a subset of the 3 billion viewers per day? What if some of them can be encouraged to start to listen on streaming platforms? Because that would generate royalty, right? We're not royalty free, we're restriction free. We cut out the middleman, but we go directly to the platforms and collect all of that. We launched it, we tested it, we tweaked it, we learned. Today we get more than 20 billion streams across streaming platforms per year. So there's tons of money flowing in. We take all of that money, all of the publishing, all of the master, all of the neighboring, because we're one entity, we can collect all of it, not some of it. There are no deductions along the way. And then we took a long, sharp knife and we cut all of that money right down the middle. Because we said that we've commissioned the tracks, we've marketed the tracks, we've provided the data to the artist, but we want to build a world where artist wins. So we committed to paying all of the royalty in perpetuity, 50% of everything we share with the artist. So suddenly there's millions of dollars additionally flowing out to all of the artists we work with. A regular artist with Epidemic will make $60,000 to $70,000 to $80,000 a year, and some making several hundreds of thousands of dollars because they get the entire flywheel. So that's pillar number 3. And then a few years ago, we introduced pillar number 4, which is if we offer all of our employees the opportunity to buy stock options in Epidemic such that they can participate in the long-term upside, why wouldn't we do the same with artists that we work with for a long period of time? Why wouldn't we make our success their success? Like, wouldn't it be great if they had a bigger vested interest than just paying up front and getting a soundtrack bonus and getting 50-50 splits? What if they're part of our success? And so we invited them to invest in our option program as well. And I'll stop there, but sort of that's how it's evolved over the years. And it just keeps on evolving. We've said that we're never going to stop. So we're at 4 pillars now. If I come back in a year, I hope we'll have 5 or 6. But like, that's the journey we're on.
Yeah, thank you for that. That answers about 4 questions in one, and I appreciate that. But I also know that Epidemic has partnered with some artists, and you told me about this when we first met, Johnny Marr, Jordan Sparks. In addition to that core business we were just talking about, are you taking on traditional label roles and responsibilities?
We're on the cusp of doing something super exciting now. So there are 2 projects which are, one is launching tomorrow, so I'll give you an exclusive. And the other one just launched 2 weeks ago, so I'll give you a catch up. But before I do, I'm remiss because I mentioned that there was this like recent thing that happened. I forgot to bring it up. So I'll use that to set us up.
Sure.
So last week, the biggest thing that happened in the YouTube ecosystem is that there was an epic YouTuber, his name or his channel's name is Outdoor Boys, who decided to stop producing video. This is important because he's an OG. He has almost 16 million followers. He's put up more than 1,000 pieces of content over the last decade. And he decided to call it quits for a number of different reasons. So he put up a goodbye video. He's been an Epidemic customer for many years, again, as are 70% of the most popular YouTubers. And so, of course, he decided to use a Epidemic track to soundtrack his farewell video. The artist in question is his name is Matthias Tell. Like, feel free to add the links of at the show or below. The track went absolutely viral. Right, so within days, it started racking up millions of views. There was an announcement in the video saying that the music is from this guy. His Instagram completely exploded. Like, within 48 hours, he had 50,000 Shazams. He had over 1 million people reaching out to him over LinkedIn. His Spotify streams increased not with 600%, but with 6,000%. And so suddenly the epidemic flywheel in all its glory was in full effect. And this was just like a regular week at Epidemic. This was last week. So tomorrow we're launching the next chapter of Epidemic, which is where we're acknowledging that over the years, like, one extreme way of thinking about Epidemic is that we've accidentally built the world's most comprehensive sample pack. If you think about it, our catalog of music, which comprises almost a quarter or more than a quarter of 1 million pieces of IP across every genre of music known to man and then some. We have sound effects, we have sound beds, we have instrumental, we have vocal traps. It's all split into stems. We can prove the provenance of every single recording, of every single sample. Like, everything is included. And so what we're launching tomorrow together with Honey Dijon, who's an incredible DJ, is from now on, like, every single month, we're going to launch a new remix with a super relevant, super prominent modern artist of our time who's been invited to remix one of the Epidemic tracks. And as such, we believe that we're super well positioned to help our next generation artists, so the producers, the remixers, the DJ of our time, such as Honey Dijon, to reach a completely new audience. Because if they remix tracks with their incredible talent and their acumen and their voice, they take tracks within our catalog, we put them on Epidemic, we then market them to all of our millions of users such that they generate hundreds of millions of interactions. That's going to generate millions, if not billions, of streams, because these tracks, mark my word, will resonate with the entire globe. We're in a position where we can share the royalty we collect, we can share that back with the producer DJ and with the underlying artist, because we have a completely different business model. So if you're a producer or DJ, our belief is that you've come from a world where sampling is difficult, it's litigious, it's expensive, marketing is scarce. Yes, it's precious because ultimately you want to create massive hits, because if you have the hit of the summer, odds are you'll get the phone call where you get residency, you get to play at the festivals where you can have like a huge night where you make the bulk of your money. And also you tend to not get royalty, because if you remix other people's IP, quite often, not always, but often you don't get any residual royalty, because that's already been divvied up between the publisher, the record label, the artist, and all the middlemen. Because we don't have that, we can be much more progressive. So this is something which is going live tomorrow. It's something that's been in the works for a while. We're calling it Extra Version, and it's going to be spearheaded by Honey Dijon. So that's less than 24 hours out. So that's one thing where we're turning into something completely different.
Yeah, and sync licensing is a mystery to a lot of developing and middle class artists, and it's complex sort of almost by design. And I feel like that's one of your superpowers, is your strength in sync, whether that's for games, TV shows, movies, YouTubers. Talk a little bit about just sync in general.
The way I think about it is high level. We go back to the attention economy, and I look at the creator economy in the music industry. And I think that for the longest time ever, the growth of the DSPs has underpinned a renaissance in music. We've come back to growth. We've made it cool to consume, listen, get engaged in music again. But if we're being serious for a second, we're kind of running out of humans. Like, the last number I heard is that the Spotify penetration in Sweden is 104%. I have two accounts. I have a family account and a private account, because my family account gets kids' music all the time and it kind of screws up my recommendations. So I have two accounts. But we're running out of humans. And so the music industry needs to and deserves to keep on growing. So on the DSP sides, like, it's more bundling, it's opening up emerging markets, it's looking at pricing, but there are a finite amount of tools. And so I think that the music industry needs to look in a different direction to find the growth that it needs and deserves. And to me, the answer is obvious. To me, the answer is sync. Like as the online world starts to evolve into much more of what we've always thought, it's video first. And video without music is like food without flavor, right? It's bland, it's tasteless, it's not memorable, and it's definitely not unforgettable. So enter the role of sync, enter the role of soundtracking, like doubling down and allowing, because it used to be that people only put attention towards content creators. And that's great. And there are millions of them. It's doing well, it's proliferating. But if you look at the marketing trends of the world, if you look at where the big brands are spending more and more of their money, it's not on billboards. It's not on traditional television. It's online and influencer marketing. It's of integrating their messaging where the eyeballs are. And the eyeballs are on short form, long form video online. And so as more and more attention, more and more money, more and more commercial interests are moving into that space, like the online sync opportunity is a multi-billion-dollar opportunity because content deserves great music. It deserves emotion to make it memorable, to make it stick out. And this is the area where we've been focused for the last 15 years. So organizing the commercial model, the brand, getting the distribution, getting the users, building their trust, building our first own catalog where everything is scalable and works, and now starting to onboard more and more creators, starting with DJs, starting with producers, starting with remixers. Like we're trying to open up the sync opportunity for much more people. Our dominant business model is one of subscription, but it's around the idea of syncing music with video, where, I mean, my favorite example is, if I don't talk my own book, it's probably Kate Bush and Stranger Things, like Running Up That Hill. When that hit that movie, like the streams on Spotify went crazy. That's an epic sync. Mm-hmm. That's what we do 3 billion times a day.
You were really early. Epidemic was super early into ambient, lo-fi, mood-based music. Some people refer to it as functional music, music to help you study, help you sleep. You've had tremendous success with that with Spotify. Tell us a little bit about that relationship.
First off, and context is important. So what we realized early on, and I can actually point to a moment in time. I was invited to my son's school to give a talk, like bring a parent day, basically. And people were under the assumption that I work with music. And it's partially true. But I shocked everyone by saying, you know what? So people might think that I work with music, but I don't. I work with emotion. Because soundtracking is the art of trying to capture human emotion and convey it. And so at the core of what we've done at Epidemic is we try to work with artists and storytellers and help bring content to life. Make people feel something. Make them feel shock and awe, excitement, terror, lust. I mean, all of the emotions, nothing is barred. And we've built hundreds of genres and categories to be best in class at creating emotion. And so that's what we were doing. And then during the course of that, as I referenced before, we stumbled upon the artists we work with. They were so good at evoking this emotion. There were so many comments that I love to consume this music standalone, like without the video as well. I want to listen to this on DSPs. So we started to upload. Spotify was definitely the first port of calling because they're Swedes. They only sit a few hundred yards from where I'm sitting right now in downtown Stockholm. So we reached out and we launched a test. As there was product market fit more or less immediately, so we decided to upload our music to all DSPs. So I want to emphasize we don't have a specific special relationship with Spotify only. It turns out all DSPs are looking for this because the way people consume music changed slightly as well. As in, when the record disappeared, playlists became more prevalent. It was more about genre. It was more about capturing opportunities. And as we and others in the space started to experiment with different kinds of editorial packaging, it turned out that there was a huge consumer demand for more functional music, as it were. I want to study. I want to sleep. I want to concentrate. I want to work. I want to party. I want to cook. It was less about play me the best of Bon Jovi, more get me in the headspace such that I get shit done for the next 3 hours and I can really do my best work. And so most people in the music industry shy away from that because it's not traditionally cool. and in its ugliest form back in the day was called Muzak, and I think it was shunned. We realized that shit, this is probably like today 2%, maybe 3% of all the entire music industry. It's growing faster than anything else. It's probably going to be 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe even 8% in a few years out. Like, let's do the contrarian thing here. Let's go all in, be super proud, beat our chest and say that this shit's hard. Like creating great functional music, creating great emotions without relying on a famous voice or a famous band to sort of carry you through that. Like you have to be a very talented artist to make that work. And I think that's how it all came to be. So we stumbled upon the opportunity. We had the muscle. We work with intelligent and talented artists. And we didn't shy away from it. Like we said, yes, we do this. We love it. We're passionate. We nerd about it. We talk about it. We sleep it. We dream it. And now we stream 20 billion times a year. It's a huge industry. And I think it deserves much more respect than it has. I mean, there are sort of Brian Eno and others. So it's not without respect. There are people in there. But I think that it's having a renaissance and people should pay more attention, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, Eno was OG when it comes to that. And, the number one search term on some of these smart speakers I just read is chill.
Yeah.
People are stressed out. We have a divided nation, at least over here in the United States, and people are at their wits' end and they need something to sort of wind down with. And that what we're talking about, functional music, could just be chill for that. The other big topic, Oscar, is generative AI, and everybody's talking about it. How do you think that AI generated music is currently impacting not only the music industry, but epidemic in particular?
I think it's still in its infancy.
Yeah.
And so I think that we're in the phase where experimenting and learning are paramount. I think many things. I think from a principle perspective, you need to have a point of view. And our point of view is that AI is this incredible, powerful tool that can help accelerate and augment human creativity. But it should never be assumed that it's here to replace human creativity. It's a tool to be wielded and used. That's super easy to distinguish when we talk about generative AI's cousin, which is AI, as in without the generative part. And so that's been part of our toolbox for many years now. We use AI to help track, mark, update, sort of create data around our music. We use AI to recommend tracks. We use AI to sort of augment search and recommendation algos. But then as you add the generative component, it becomes more important that you are distinct in terms of what you're trying to achieve. So the way that we've worked with generative AI is the following. We've said that we're looking for solutions where the outcomes aren't zero-sum games. We don't want to, what's the English expression? Rob Peter to pay Paul, right? So we don't want to do that. Instead, we want to, how can we increase the pie for everyone? And we're running R&D constantly. And so far we've released one generative product, which has been in the market for some time. And the reception has been phenomenal. So we released a product that we call AI Voice. And so basically what we've said and what we've done is we've commissioned the services of 20 AI voice actors. And we've paid them a commission up front to get the right to use our generative AI models to train on their voices. Because we always come at AI from a utility perspective. We don't want to just treat it as this new shiny thing. Rather, we want to ask ourselves, what problems are creators, as in visual creators, trying to solve? And it turns out that we're serving them very well as it relates to music. We're serving them well as it relates to sound effects and the software that they need in order to place it and distribute it and monetize it. But they were having problems with voice because there was so much voiceover work going into their audios, like introductions, outros, unboxing, setting the stage, tooling videos. Like there's so much voice that goes into it. It's cumbersome. It's difficult. It can be expensive. It's impractical when you need to work with people again and again and again. You redo takes, you get a second opinion, you have to do something else. And so we use generative AI to help supplement that. And so we came up with a model where we solicit 20 voice actors, we use their service, we build an AI, a generative AI model around that, and then we created an additional revenue pool such that the service is free for all of our paying subscribers. So it's additional value for content creators. It's not to the detriment of music creators, because this just adds to like the reasons why you'd want to use Epidemic. And we've built a credit system such that you can use credits from your subscription to generate text in the style of these voices. Every time you use that, we pay out royalties based on the credits you use, and we put aside an additional pool. And so there's more money in the system. So now suddenly voice actors are making money even when they're not physically working, because they're being licensed and their voice is doing the work. On top of that, we then added the personal email addresses of the voice actors as well, because we said that we don't want to be like a go-between or somebody who holds you back. Rather, if people want to do distinct direct work and solicit your services directly, we want to be on board with that as well. And so like that's one example of how we've been able to expand the pie. There's more generative AI. It's in the dominion of music. We use our music understanding, our music data to build the model. It powers voice, and it just helps make everyone's life better, richer, and easier.
Oscar, as we wind down here, Epidemic is growing super fast, but you're also evolving and changing. How do you account for that growth, and how are you going to sustain it?
Companies that are built similar to ours tend to be on a trajectory. And there are 3 phases. The first one is feature, second one is product, and the third one is platform. And for us, it's clear that for the first 5 to 6 years, we were a feature. Like we solved one problem really, really well, but we were a one-trick pony. During the last 10 years, we've grown into be a product. We have a platform, we solve many different problems. There's music, there's software, there's peace of mind, there's brand. There are so many components that have turned us into a must-have crucial part to any creator's toolbox, whether you're an artist or whether you are a visual video creator. So the inflection point we're at now is, how do you become a platform? How can you become a wider church? How can you add value to more people? And so we believe that there are 2 things we're doing now that speaks to this. So the first one I already mentioned, which is our extra version. So Honey Dijon, we're opening up for more artists to work with and through us. The second one is more of a platform play, where no other comparison, but for the longest time ever, Amazon built internal infrastructure to help them scale their business, help them scale storage, help them scale logistics, help them scale their business. And they piled up talent and people and process and software and data. And eventually, I think somebody internally said, like, why are we only using this as an internal tool? Like, we built the best scaling infrastructure on the planet. Let's call it AWS. Let's open it up for everyone and become like the scaling backbone of the internet. No other comparison with Amazon, obviously, but we're having our Amazon moment right now, because over the last 16 years, we've been very focused, Jay. We only do soundtracking. Like, we want to be better at everyone else on planet Earth in terms of how you soundtrack content. And so we've built processes, people, we've trained software, we've accumulated data, we have proprietary ways of working such that we understand how music travels in the creator economy better than anyone else. And up until 2 weeks ago, we only allowed for all of that information to benefit us. 2 weeks ago, we decided this is our AWS moment. So we opened up the kimono, we called it Antidote, and we now have a service where we're offering up, not to everyone, it's select, but we're starting to roll it out, where we can help traditional IP owners, like people within the music industry, like legacy bands or estates or smaller labels or people who aren't in the biggest infrastructure companies of the music industry, to use our tools, to use our services, because we have a success-based fee only. And so we don't charge if we don't create value, but we know that we can help mark, data tag, upload, report, manage, monetize, distribute, market music better than anyone else. And if we're successful in providing an upside, we create value and then we share that value capture according to sort of different setups. And so Antidote and Extra Version are the 2 things that we're seeing now. We're transitioning from being a feature to being a product to being a platform, where we're ultimately looking to help in equal parts the artists out there, but also the platforms that we love to serve, the YouTubes, the Spotifys, like everyone and anyone who's helping like the creator economy. That's where we think we can put sort of our smarts to work.
Oscar, where can people learn more about you and what you're building at Epidemic Sound?
In terms of reaching out, I think that just hitting us up on our website, epidemicsound.com, is a great way to get to know us. We're constantly hiring, we're constantly looking for talent, so please don't be a stranger. In terms of reaching out to me directly, I conduct all of my social media on LinkedIn. And so reach out to LinkedIn. I'll reply within 24 hours and you can message, talk, and interact with me. And I'm more than happy in connecting people. As I said, we're based here in Europe. I think that we're probably one of the best connected creative companies on the planet. So if you have an idea, if you want to get introduced, if you want to open up Europe, reach out and would love to be helpful.
Thank you, Oscar. Continued success. Let's talk again soon.
Thanks for having me, Jay. Bye.
You've been listening to Your Morning Coffee, the weekly music news program for the new music business. Join Jay Gilbert and Mike Etchart next time for the digital music news you need to know.